Hi, everybody. And we're continuing to work on fabrication of the fuel pump. I don't even know what you call it. Setup. So my buddy Paul from the last video came in, and he had to go, so I walked him out. Now I'm just back working on this. So as I mentioned before, the fuel pumps are there. There you can see them pretty well. Once I take that cover plate off. On top of the cover plate will sit one of the filters that will be secured to the plate, and then a line will come in to the fuel filter, out of the fuel filter back into the pump, and then through the pump through the firewall. Now you're asking, so why are you doing this now? Like, why are you working on the fuel pump stuff? So, right, basically it's a proof of concept, right? The fuel pump that Van sends already has a place to mount it, all that, it's great. I need to know if the setup that I'm going to do is going to fit. So I'm having to fabricate and mock this thing up now. Once I realize that it fits, well, that's great. Now I can go ahead and, then I can worry about the next thing, right? So in order of the crap I'm dealing with is a proof of concept that makes sure that this thing fits. And there you can see, look at that. Fuel pumps, fuel filters on top. That piece of line goes around, it's beautiful. If that fits, great. So the next step will be, and there you can see I had made another piece of line to mimic where the fuel selector comes from, but it's hard to tell until you put it in. I just need to make sure that it fits. And as you can see, I've also made a couple of brackets that connect to the bottom of the fuel pumps and kind of elevate it. Because that's what Van's does for theirs. However, Van's fuel pump basically doesn't really have anything that it sits on other than the bracket, so you kind of need to have those brackets there, as that's the only thing it has. My fuel pumps have their own housing. It's nice and square. It's already got holes drilled into it and tapped for screws. So, yeah, it's a really pretty thing. And so, the good news is that what I've made does fits very well. After consulting with some other home builders and a few A&Ps, what they said is you don't really need to worry about like keeping the pumps a certain distance away from the actual shroud. You don't want them resting on the shroud because the exhaust is underneath. It's going to be hot. Plus, it's going to rattle and it could damage things. You definitely want it off, and that's fine. The housing that it comes with it keeps the pumps about quarter of an inch off of away from the shroud. So, great. The next step is what the heck do I do for actually securing this to the shroud? What I've decided to do is, so all the holes in the thing that it comes with are already cut, and that's nice, and they're tapped, like I said, for screws. However, they're only tapped to really work from the outside. It's kind of really difficult. It's hard to explain, but basically, the only way that I could secure it as is would be to have screws coming into the pump housing from outside the plane where the shroud is. I know it doesn't make a lot of sense, but basically, the the end result of what happened was, okay, I'm going to keep the holes because they work great, but I'm going to drill the tabs out. So what I did was I took a 1/4 inch drill bit on, there you can see how it's supposed to fit. I got a 1/4 inch drill bit, put it in the drill press, and I drilled through the tapped holes to accept an AN4 bolt. So what I'm doing is I'm going to put nut plates on the ramp. I'm going to rivet them in place, and I'm going to use a little fire sealant around it too. And then I'm just going to drop screws through the housing, through the fuel pump housing, and then into the nut plate in 4 locations, and that's what's going to secure it. And that's phase 2. Phase 1, make sure that it fits, and it does. Phase 2, find a way to connect it, and that's great. Phase 3 is actually putting the nut plates on, and then I can move on with my life, because I know. So what I have to do now is I have to drill the holes through the shroud. So I'm drilling 1/4 inch holes exactly where the pump goes on, and that will be that. There's Judy. And my buddy Paul Milner. So yeah, Judy and I went and yesterday was the 99s, the local chapter of the 99s, which is the Female Pilots Association. Had a poker run. Unfortunately, the weather in San Francisco has been crappy the last week. It's middle of May and it's raining, so we didn't get to fly in. Instead, we just we drove over. It had a nice little barbecue down in Hayward, and so since you couldn't fly to all the locations to get the cards, and if you don't know what a poker run is, I don't have time to explain it. Just look it up. So I bought a couple of hands, and I actually wound up winning the whole thing, which is shocking. So won $100, and then we went out and drank all of it. Well, no, we ate and drank all the winnings, pretty much. I mean, I only won $45, so I was like, you know what, let's put our good fortune to use by wine and pizza. So, thank you for joining me. On the next video, we will be working more on getting this fixed. There you can see I've already started drilling holes, so see you soon.